The Senate hearing wasn't supposed to be newsworthy, just another round of questions, nods, and careful answers. But when Senator Elizabeth Warren leaned forward in her chair and adjusted her mic, something shifted. She wasn't asking about budgets, she wasn't reviewing procedure. She was drawing a line. Across the table sat three of the most powerful figures in military education: Lieutenant General Gilland of West Point, Vice Admiral Davids of the Naval Academy, and General Bowenfind of the Air Force Academy. And Warren wasn't there to praise them. She was there to challenge what she called the Trump administration's assault on leadership. The issue? Clubs. More specifically, the dismantling of decades-old student groups, engineering clubs, identity associations, leadership circles, that, in Warren's words, helped cadets grow into more than soldiers, into citizens. But those clubs were vanishing one by one. Canceled under a wave of executive orders aimed at scrubbing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, from every inch of military life. This administration, she said, voice tightening, is purging programs based on keyword searches and political slogans. It's sending a message that not everyone is welcome in our military. General Gilland shifted in his seat. All of West Point, he said, is a living, breathing leadership lab. Clubs are a part of that. Warren nodded, but didn't let go. Then why are they being shut down? No one answered directly. What began as a policy review had turned into something more dangerous, a narrative war. The media caught on quickly. Headlines the next morning were blunt. Warren warns, Trump undermining future officers. Cadet clubs under fire in culture war. Is military readiness being politicized? The White House didn't respond, but somewhere in Mar-a-Lago, a familiar voice was watching the clips, eyes narrowed, not in panic, but in calculation. Let them talk, Trump said, according to a close aide. They just gave me my stage. And that stage? It was already being built. By the time cable news had finished looping Elizabeth Warren's speech for the 10th time, Trump's team had already shifted into motion. Not with crisis meetings or drafted apologies, but with lighting setups and camera angles. The rally was set for Jacksonville, not a coincidence. Florida wasn't just Trump territory, it was also home to several key military recruitment centers. The optics mattered. The message would matter more. But before the speech, the campaign comms team made one thing clear: no off-the-cuff rants. This wouldn't be about score settling, this would be about redefining the battlefield. The crowd was massive, as always. Flags waved, chants started. But when Trump took the stage, the tone changed. No red meat, no memes, just him standing beneath a banner that read, "Strength over slogans." He began slowly. "They say I'm dismantling the military," he said. "No, I'm rebuilding it. I'm removing distractions so our warfighters can focus on one thing: winning." Then came the pivot. Elizabeth Warren wants you to believe that canceling a club is canceling America. But let me ask you something. Did Eisenhower need a safe space? Did Patton take sensitivity training? The crowd laughed, but Trump didn't smile. We spend millions training pilots, warriors, leaders, and now they want to turn the academy into a sociology lab. I say no. I say enough. We're not here to coddle. We're here to conquer. Cable news braced for outrage, but something strange happened. Veterans began calling in. Not all of them agreed with Trump's tone, but the substance hit home. Retired generals on Fox and Newsmax started using phrases like returning to fundamentals. Even a few independent voices raised the question: if the mission is combat readiness, what role should identity politics play? Meanwhile, on the Hill, Warren doubled down. She issued a statement that read more like a war cry than a press release. This isn't about ideology, it's about preparation. When we strip down leadership development, we don't just lose culture, we lose capability. But inside her own caucus, the mood was complicated. A moderate senator from Colorado reportedly muttered to a staffer, "Why the hell are we fighting over clubs during an election year?" That same night, a new report dropped, one that didn't come from a podium, but from a leak. A Department of Defense memo, circulated internally, marked confidential. Inside, a directive to all service academies urging them to minimize non-mission essential programming. with a footnote listing over 24 DEI-related student organizations. It wasn't just political pressure, it was policy. And suddenly, the question wasn't whether Trump had overreached. It was whether he'd simply said the quiet part out loud. The memo changed everything. For days, the narrative had been framed as partisan grandstanding, Warren on the offense, Trump retaliating from the podium. But when the Department of Defense's own words leaked, when Americans saw in plain print a list of student organizations quietly marked for phase-out, the temperature shifted. This wasn't just rhetoric anymore, it was real, measurable, documented. The media scrambled. Outlets that had championed Warren's warnings were suddenly asking different questions. Why hadn't the Pentagon announced these changes publicly? Why were legacy programs like engineering mentorship groups, language clubs, and cultural associations being targeted alongside ideological ones? What exactly counted as non-mission essential? And who got to decide? Behind closed doors, Warren's team was livid. The leak had confirmed her fears, but it had also reframed the battlefield. What had started as a moral argument was now a strategic one. And in the court of public opinion, strategy tends to win. That Friday, Trump posted again. No rally, no video, just 12 words. "We don't train warriors to pass tests, we train them to win wars." The post was shared over 3 million times in 24 hours. Back in DC, the Defense Department remained silent, but inside the administration, momentum was shifting. Military leaders were summoned for briefings. Messaging teams were instructed to soften language. A quiet order was circulated to pause further non-essential club reviews until after the election. Too late. Sunday morning, 60 Minutes ran a segment featuring a cadet, anonymous, face blurred, who described being told his leadership role in a tech-focused DEI club no longer aligned with mission priorities. His voice cracked as he said, "They told us to focus on tactics, but leadership is more than tactics, it's trust." The comment struck a nerve. And across the country, the debate changed again. No longer left versus right. No longer Trump versus Warren. Now, it was a fundamental question. What makes a strong military? Hardened discipline or human understanding? In Jacksonville, a quiet video was posted from Trump's campaign HQ. No crowd, no soundtrack, just Vice President J.D. Vance seated at a desk. Our enemies aren't debating pronouns, they're building missiles. And while our opposition worries about club rosters, we're focused on combat readiness. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. And when you send your son or daughter into the service, you're not sending them to feel seen. You're sending them to come home. That clip, more viral than any speech that week. Back on Capitol Hill, Warren watched it in silence. She didn't blink, but her aide noticed the note she scribbled beside her press prep folder. He reframed the question. And in today's media war, that's the only victory that matters. Because in the end, Trump didn't just cancel a club. He canceled the conversation Warren thought she was leading and replaced it with one question that echoed far louder. Are we building safe spaces or a stronger military? And that question, America wasn't ready to ignore. What do you think? Are we protecting discipline or just avoiding discomfort? Drop your thoughts in the comments.